He might not be from Krypton, but he's heads above the rest. His knowledge can't be questioned. You can put it to the test. So if you want to hear the truth and have nowhere else to go, I'll give you the solution. Just tune into his show and just kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod.
And welcome everybody back to the Phantom Zone. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying villain in YouTube today. And if I look like I am tired, it's because, not to worry everybody, but I've been under the weather. I got a tooth infection, which apparently can hurt your health-wise, and then the infection spread into my jaw. So it's the reason why I haven't been on Twitter, if you haven't seen me on there recently, and I haven't been doing much of anything but sitting at home and being nursed back to health. But bright side, I got a permission slip from work. So yay, felt like the good old days, even though I don't get paid for it, so that sucks. But anyways, oh yeah, Lily, but it's fine. I don't like being one of these YouTube people that be like, oh my god, I'm not feeling well, blah blah. And no, it was just kind of funny because I did a video yesterday. Because I've been meaning to do a lot of videos, and I'm like, I'm sick in bed. I might as well get some stuff done. So I did some writing, and I shot a video, and I decided to make it a series. And I'm currently working on the editing, but it's the first time me using my video software. Besides the Boston video I did Patriots Day for Shalana, I did another video that's going to be The Sopranos versus Breaking Bad, and which one that I love the most. And it's a compare and contrast. And I took a controversial stance. I actually say I like The Sopranos finale better than Breaking Bad now that I've watched it years later. And I'm going to do like 3 or 4 part video explaining in great detail why. So that'll be coming out soon. How are you, Janie Davis? Good to see you. But yeah, so a little under the weather if I don't sound like my normal go-getter self.
Go-getter self.
But yeah, I took a bunch of painkillers, some medication, get ready to go. So how are you doing today, Miss J?
I am doing good. Worried about you. So hopefully you get better. I'm doing good. I feel like I need to talk about how I'm a protagonist when we do this show because, you're talking about being a villain and I need to do something cool. I always say that and I never do anything. But anyway, hi everyone. Let's see. Lily's here. Elizabeth Mee's here. I'm trying to see who's all here.
Janie Davis.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing good. Excuse me. I wanted to talk about character motivation. Again, I know we started talking about it last week. And by the way, I apologize that we missed Monday's show this time. I had the day off from work, so I was actually at home for a change. And let me just say, we got back from the lake and my son was like all over me. And I was like, I need to do something. Yeah, but he was not having it. So that was my bad. But anyway, so next week we will be here. So, unless Zod disappears.
Yeah, it was good anyways because I was at the height of my feeling like crap. So,
Hi, Cherry K, my love.
Hey, Cherry K, one of the best mods. Oh, and today for all of you all who are here, I will reveal, there we go, some of what I've been working on.
Well, we could start with that if you want, because I'm dying to know.
Oh my goodness. I wasn't even I wasn't even prepared. I was gonna like build up, no, because we were talking about characterization.
Mhm.
So if you guys don't know, I'm writing a book, and it's called A Detective Story. And my first book is going to be called The Shadow Man. So, oh, Lily Potter says yes, start with it. Oh my goodness, now you guys are really putting, if it sucks, I'm going to be all like, oh my God. Okay, so to kind of set you guys up, and this kind of swings to what you were saying. So Miss J. McCarthy is on the side of the angels. I like to explore the devils of writing. I don't know. The more I write this, I was going for a horror vibe, but it's now kind of becoming a pseudo psychological kind of thing.
That
So
happens. That happens sometimes. You have an image in your head and then it just shifts because the story guides you instead of you guiding the story. So I like that.
yeah, and don't be offended. I'm doing something new. So if you guys don't know, when writing a script, it's different than writing a book because doing certain writing techniques work for the visual medium much better than say the book medium. But you'll get the idea. It's a it's a narrative from my character's perspective, and I say characters because it's three. One is in the person's head. The other one is uh, the villain, and of course, I start with the villain first, narrating. So, oh my goodness. Okay, 6 people watching. I better not suck.
You're going to be fine.
Lord Ballard says, "Oh no, really? Zod books and scripts are different." Yes, they are quite different. Um, I've always kind of wanted to dabble into script writing, but I just don't have the patience for everything that comes with that. But anyways, so the title is a working title, but hopefully it's I'm hoping not to fiddle with it too much because I don't like to go back through and rewrite stuff. That's too much work, man. Anyways,
Hi, Geekicidal.
hey, Geekicidal. Yes, order some donuts for me, or a blueberry bagel. It's called A Detective Story, Book 1, Shadow Man. I'm planning on doing 3 books from the perspective of the detectives and as an anthology, and maybe possibly the characters will cross over into corresponding books. So,
I love it.
okay. Oh boy, I hate, I get stage fright. I hate reading in front of people, but anyways, don't judge me. Rough draft. Anyways, so I know what you're thinking. This is by a guy who is nihilistic. Oh, by the way, my character insults me and possibly the reader, so don't get offended. They break the fourth wall a lot. I know what you guys are thinking. This is by a guy who is nihilistic. I can confirm your thoughts based on his big fucking mouth. So the hero will die and some shocking twists will happen, blah, blah, blah. He's not that deep. Instead, here I am, your scapegoat, the big bad. I must be because I'm mocking you. I'm sure you're confused now. You're building up in your mind. What an asshole. He needs to be stopped. You can't wait to blame all of our heroes' woes on my evil grand scheme. If you like me, you'll wait for this asshole writing this to make some sympathetic bullshit backstory. Maybe he's not all bad, or maybe I'm true evil, and you'll root harder for our hero. Get that, meanie. He killed people and kicked puppies. Oh, the humanity. Here's a thought. What if me, the psycho murdering asshole, kicker of puppies, wasn't the bad guy? What if the hero is the bad guy? Shock, gasp, how deep? Fuck it. I'm not telling you shit because I care, not because I care about this train wreck of a story, not because I want to change your perception, or because I want you to take this journey into self-discovery. You want to know why? I am the thing you fear. A shadow. Oh my goodness. God, this is long. A shadow in the dark. I am the villain, or am I? This implies an omission of guilt. If I am the antagonist of the story, then would I volunteer such information? If I'm a cookie cutter villain, sure. Fuck it. I'm bored with this sharing. Clearly, this guy writing me is so self indulgent and a narcissistic ass. This could go on forever. Let him weave his tale, his magnum opus. Everybody enjoy.
I am loving it.
So, yeah, I got a lot more than that, but that's just well, that's actually really a prologue.
Yeah, whatever.
Not even an introduction yet. So maybe I'll read a little bit more later. I don't know. I get nervous.
Hi, JFD. And then somebody else came in too. Who is it? Crew? I'm gonna call you Crew.
Oh, Carmel. Hey.
No, I enjoyed it, and I like the character building and the motivations. It seems like he's antagonistic, but also very cocky, and also very like he's trying to be mysterious, but not at the same time. He's just trying to be confusing. It sounds like so. It'll be interesting to see what his further motivations are.
Oh yes, and I may read the introduction because that's where it gets really interesting. I gotta say, this is the hardest thing for me to write. So when I'm writing this, as you guys will see later, everybody narrates except for me. So everything you hear and see is from the character narrating what's happening because I'm a huge fan of Quentin Tarantino, and if you guys watch his movie, a lot of it is not him actually shooting it from the perspective of a filmmaker, but rather what the characters are doing and seeing and their thoughts. So I took that approach, which is actually extremely hard to do in a writing format. It took me when I'm writing because I'm doing 3 different perspectives because my character also interacts with a character in their mind. They have a back and forth. So essentially there's 3 people talking at once. So JD Davis says, at Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, that list of characters are hard to write because if you push it too far, it can give you the impression that everything is happening in the story is pointless. Yes, that is true, and I agree with you, Janie. That's what makes it hard because I like pushing the envelope, but I also don't believe in going too much into or leaning into gore and things as a crutch. I like to to me the best horror things that are scary are things that are in the mind or that your mind can conceive. When people show too much to me, it's a visual crutch instead of leaning on the things that aren't seen. Not knowing what's out there. Things lurking in the dark, that's much scarier to people than actually seeing it. So I like to let people have their mind do the work. My favorite author, Dean Koontz, John Grisham, Tom Clancy, Stephen King, Saul. Let me see. J.K. Rowling, her early work, of course. Stephanie Meyer, but not Twilight. I like Host and anything that isn't Twilight. I think her writing there is very, very rudimentary until you get to host. That was when I saw she could write outside. Like,
Yeah.
that was interesting to me. Twilight didn't do it for me. Sorry, Twilight fans.
Yeah, whatever.
And I hate 50 Shades of Grey. I hate the person who suggested I read that book.
Yeah. Wasn't me.
Yeah, they were a horrible human being. Those books were dreadful to get there. The movie was worse.
Yeah, I didn't even read any of 50 Shades of Grey. Like, I got it. It was being read to me while I was on a special work assignment. And so my friend was reading it and she was like all into it. And she was just like reading it out loud to me. And I was like, I don't.
It's so ugh. Lily Potter, the one thing that scares me was the character hitting puppies. Oh, he does far worse. And there is an interesting twist, and I'm not going to tell you. When I get done, it'll definitely shock you. Hopefully, I want to make it a mystery, kind of a thing. So, and it's going to be difficult because I don't want to make it too mysterious where people can't put it together, but at the same time, not too simplistic where you're halfway through and be like, "Oh, I got it."
Mm-hmm.
But that's the biggest thing. I took your advice and I did like a spreadsheet and I laid it out because I needed to know where exactly I was going to put clues into what's going on, because the book is overall a mystery.
Yeah.
Of my detective following this person who's called the Shadow Man and trying to figure out who the Shadow Man is.
Right.
So,
you know what? You should read my friend Tamara's series. She's co-authoring it with my friend Celeste. Let's see. It's called the Otherworld series, or Chronicles. I'm sorry, the Otherworld Chronicles, and it's a dark paranormal mystery series.
I might have to.
Let me give you the first one.
Yeah, pick your own torture instead of your own adventure ending. Yeah, I'm gonna keep the violence to. As a matter of fact, most of the violent scenes won't happen until the end when the person puts everything together. Instead of me showing you, I plan on cutting it because I don't want, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I want to build up the suspense, because one thing I love in horror is when they build it up, keep you in suspense until bam, the ending hits, and it's all just like a gasp for your breath kind of thing. Elizabeth, me, yes, the imagination is far scarier. Yeah, the host is good. Yes. Geeky Style Tendency says, Jane, I actually have some scholar knowledge about Australia. Took 2 semesters in grade 11 on the continent. That sounds awesome.
That does sound awesome.
Thank you. Twilight is terrible. It's a terrible, terrible mess. Now, here's an interesting thing. Everybody hates the movie Twilight, and it took me a couple of years, and I actually don't think it's as bad of a movie as everybody makes it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a lot of good acting. It's just when you think about the story and then the script, first off, the script didn't have much to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen Stewart gets a lot of shit. She's actually a decent actress. I hated the new Charlie's Angels. Surprisingly, she was the best part of that movie. So she's not a bad actress. And we all know about what's his face.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson's a great underrated actor. And he was stuck with that terrible stain. I agree, Carmel. The 50 Shades of Grey, written by a kid with a crayon.
Yeah. It was basically, I think I read somewhere, it was basically Twilight fan fiction, just moved around.
Yes, I will check this link out. Yeah, Dan Brown is good. I agree. So, yeah, I'll leave everyone with that, and we'll talk about some stuff, and then maybe I'll read a little bit more later.
debating on reading myself.
Ooh. Oh, we have 10 people watching. Thank you, everybody tuned in.
Yes. Let's see. Who's all here? Did somebody else come in that I didn't see?
No, I think we got everyone.
That's good to know, Janie.
Well, I would say all of them except for the person who plays the werewolf. Yeah, I saw him in this very terrible movie called Abduction. They should not have ever tried to make him an action hero. That movie was horrible. Sigourney Weaver could not even make that movie good. It was such a bad film. I watched it twice trying to give that poor kid a break. He's just not made for those kinds of movies. He has this look of like he actually worked in Twilight because he had that buff, Jacob look. Like he was perfect for that role, but poor guy never did anything after that. That part is he's a real martial artist too. I have a love for anyone who does martial arts and stuff like that, but yeah. And he did his own stunts in the movie. That was really what was sad. He's very talented, but hey, Deanne, good to see you. At J. McCarthy, apparently she changed almost nothing except for the names of the original fanfic.
Yep. Figured as much.
What's sad is people actually believe there was like some kind of weird phenomenon. That's one of those things that did so much money because there was a weird phenomenon with that type of thing where they think that's what people who like each other / love each other. I don't know what the hell their relationship was exactly. They think that is what romance is.
Yeah.
No.
And honestly, I don't know much about the BDSM world, but I feel like that's not how it works.
I don't know Terry Pritchard. I've heard of the author because I read Neil Gaiman. If you guys don't know, one of my favorite comics is The Sandman. Spawned a larger universe, and from that universe came one of my all-time favorite characters, Lucifer, which spawned one of the best shows that Fox has ever made.
Yep.
And thank God Netflix picked it up.
Oh my God. Yeah. And 5B, the way 5B,
yeah.
So in love.
I thought for sure that it was going to be done that season because the way that they did it, you could have almost ended it there, but they were like, no, we're going to season 6. I'm like, please don't drag this out for money. Where are you gonna go?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I feel like there's so much potential with that world that they built that they could do so many things. And so I'm really nervous about season 6. Like the fandom is really active on Twitter, and I'm very active in the Lucifer fandom on Twitter, just to segue here. So like everybody was like, oh my God, I can't believe they ended it that way, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I was pretty satisfied. I mean, granted, I'm glad that we have season 6 to like tie up some loose ends that might be out there, but really like the end of 5B, I was pretty satisfied.
Yeah, that's a problem that I always find. I was part of a big fandom, if you guys don't know, Supernatural. One of my favorite CW shows they ever made, the last bastion of good writing on the CW. And they should have ended it at 5. When they beat the devil, I was like, where do you go from there? Like 13 years did not need to happen. And I did watch the very last episode, and I was like, it was good, but still, 5 nailed it. That was when Eric Kripke was done. He was like, okay, I'm going to write another great show now, The Boys. But he's a guy who really understands material, and the way he understands the source material for that book, it was funny because like the network had to tell him that there was things he can do from the comic. That's how much he's adapted from it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he changed a few things, quite a few things, but those things that he changed was because like Amazon was like, no, we're really letting a lot go. And that's pretty funny considering if you watch the show, how much they let him get away with. There was even stuff in there where they were like, nah, I don't think we can do this.
Let's see. I'm trying to see. So this chapter is so long. I don't know where to stop it and where to start it.
Yeah, that I'm glad everyone's here, and that's the point. I wanted to do stuff with get your guys' mind going, what books you like, what stories you like, things like that. Because reading is great, and I do entertainment, and a big part of that is reading and writing and all that fun stuff. I probably shouldn't be doing this.
Let's see. So I want to read this part just because I think you'll appreciate it, because I was aiming for creepy. And mind you, this has not been typed yet, so it's going to be really like bones of what I'm trying to do here. So hopefully it makes sense. I just got to figure out where to stop. Okay. All right. Hopefully this isn't too long. Let's see. Everybody ready? Okay, this chapter is called The Plague. So for those of you that don't know, let's just do a quick little plug here before I start this. So my book, Dark Descending, is a prequel to this book that I'm currently writing called The Dark Walker. And Dark Descending is in the Acts of Divinity Anthology, which is on Amazon. So you can buy it. Last I knew it was for 99 cents. Let me see how much it is now. It's 99 cents, and it kind of gives you a little bit of the foundation of the world that I've built. And so this is kind of continuing that story. So basically it's about a woman who's on a journey, and she's trying to prove that she is worthy of becoming empress of this land. Is she going to get there? Who knows? We never know. So let me see. Yes. So Acts of Divinity is still 99 cents on there. So now you guys are going to have no idea what's going on unless you've watched my channel and have a little bit of context. So I apologize in advance. So nothing could have prepared Luna for the sight on the other side of the door. The entire wing of that side of the mansion had been renovated to an open sick bay. Luna pressed her hand to her mouth as she observed row after row of gurneys. Her heart sank as she noticed that every gurney had a body in it, some alive, some dead, and some halfway between the two. To answer your question from earlier, Luna, this is the reallocation of my mansion, said Isel. A sick bay? Lycus asked. Precisely. For what? Lycus asked once more. Luna moved towards the patients and gasped. They've all been struck with a plague of, Aisel started. Darkness, Luna finished as she walked up and down the aisles looking over everyone. You've been helping them? Luna asked as she walked down more aisles. Yes, every single person who has come in contact with this or contracted it, we have extracted to here. Yet, there isn't anything I can do but make them comfortable. What have you been using to treat them? Luna asked as she walked back to Aisel, who had been joined by a physician who passed Luna a clipboard of papers to look through. Luna, Lyca said. She looked up to see all of the patients staring at her. She stepped forward, and their heads and eyes followed her movement. What? She whispered. It's happened every time you've walked past, Aisel agreed. Can they sense it? Lycus asked. Luna cleared her throat. You've been using Rowan's milk, she said, to distract herself. One of the patients met Luna's gaze and coughed violently. Luna rushed over to them as they spit black blood on the ground at her feet. Luna could feel everyone's gaze on her again. The hair on the back of her neck stood up. The physician rushed over. "Hurry," she urged as she passed Luna the Rowan's milk vial. Luna tipped it to the patient's lips, who sipped it and stilled. Everyone let out a sigh of relief until Luna looked up and saw the gazes on her. They were all in pain. Some had corruption spread through their eyes. "What is going on?" Luna whispered. The entire situation was terrifying. It felt wrong. She could feel herself getting pulled into all of their dark eyes. A trance seemed to overcome her. Abruptly, Luna was ripped from the trance when the patient she just helped grabbed her arm so tightly she knew she'd be bruised. "Luna," Lycus cries. "Help," whispered the dying man. "How?" Luna asked. The patient's voice then whispered, "Darkness falls, secrets flood our senses." "What did you say?" Luna asked, alarm bells rising in her mind. The man's voice got louder as he said, "Darkness falls, secrets flood our senses, shadows roam, fears unbound, don't turn around, the dark walker is gaining ground. A cold, bitter end abound." "What?" Luna asked as Lycus came over. "What's he saying?" "The Dark Walker poem," she said. "The what?" Lycus asked. Before she could answer, the room's patients erupted in a dissonance of chants. They were all reciting the Dark Walker poem at different times in different volumes and voices. Luna tried to pull her arm out of the man's death grip, but it wouldn't budge. The voices came louder and louder. Then Luna cried out in pain. Her gaze met the patient's as she realized, "He's siphoning my power." The patient yanked her down to him and opened his jaw wide as if he was going to bite her. Lycus moved to save her, but Isol was faster. The patient's head fell from his body in a clean cut. In an instant, Luna was released, the movement so abrupt she stumbled back into Lycus, who caught her. Everything fell quiet and still. Luna met Isol's gaze. "Thank you, Isol." Isol nodded and slid the blade back into her bell sleeves. "Look," Isol said as she motioned to all the patients who fell unconscious in their beds. The silence was deafening after the ruckus from earlier.
Wow, that was pretty good. So much pressure to live up to after that.
You'll get there. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, see, that's kind of where my introduction is, because my introduction is in the middle of a gunfight. Because, like I said, I like to start at the end. So, well, yeah, my story kind of starts at the end-ish / middle-ish, and then does the whole going back to the beginning type of a thing.
So I'm reading these comments real quick.
Oh, yeah, I was too. Oh, see, Jenny, have a lovely shower and sleep.
Yes. Geekicidal.
Yeah, I do agree. Beowulf is terrible, and Stardust is also terrible. Yes, Lucifer is good. American Gods, I don't know. I'd have to disagree with you on that one. Maybe structureless, convoluted. It's pretty thought-provoking. I like the play with the different gods and the different mythologies. Geekicidal, I say the show did a better job with how abstract the actual graphic novel is. Yeah, I can see what you're saying. As far as story-wise, I think that's one that does better in a visual medium, because there's a lot they can play around with, and I like the changes that they made in the show. It's probably one of my favorite shows, even though there is a lot of political stuff in there. That's one show I don't mind it, because they do it in a very intriguing way.
Yes, I agree. And I like how a lot of the cast actually got to direct some episodes. That's my favorite.
My favorite character is the storyteller guy. I like him, but I like Ian McShannon, I believe is his name, who plays Mr. Wednesday. Because the first time I ever saw him was in a show called Deadwood. It was one of my favorite shows. That was the first time I ever saw another actor that became hugely famous, Timothy Olenthal. I can never say his last name, but yeah. So I agree. Neil Gaiman can make some pretty weirdly structured stuff, and you know, Beowulf. Once again, I like the movie for that. Not so much the story. Stardust was garbage. Lucifer was built in the world of Sandman, so I think that's what makes his character so interesting.
Well, and he's so complex, and I feel like for people that like start the show, they're either gonna love it or they're gonna hate it, and because it can be like there's so many different elements to it, and I love the show, I do, but there were some times where I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of weird, but not in like a bad way, you know what I'm saying? But like it's just like a different spin on stuff like that. Like because when you think of the devil, you obviously don't think of like police shows.
At first I thought the format was weird, but then I thought that would be a good job for the devil.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Geekasale Tennessee says Neil seems like the Hollywood trendy writer guy. If that makes sense, 10% of people have actually read him, but 90% of people say they have just to be trendy. Yeah, I do agree, Geekasale Tendencies. There's so many people. Most people would never even know what Sandman was if it wasn't for the Netflix show coming out. Very fewer people who probably read all of it. But it's a pretty complex world. I like the world building and the way they do the multi-layers and how it's a dream-like state, which brings us into the subject that we were talking about today, right? Character development.
Yep. And so I will tell you guys, like in the Darkwalker that I'm currently writing, there's a lot of character development that has to happen. And the thing about Luna is she's trying to be Empress of Zalari, but she was not raised in a court. So she does not know what to expect when she gets this job. So not only is she having to prove herself, but she's also having to figure out what the fuck she's doing. And so she has, because I think we've talked about this before, but I'm an RPG gamer. And so what I did was create a party. So that's like her and like 7 companions, and they each have their own little spin on things. And actually, which kind of brings me to this, here in October, if not this October, the next October, there's going to be a Halloween anthology that my friend Tamara is putting on that I'm going to put another Darkwalker prequel in, and it's going to focus primarily on one of her companions. And so that'll be fun too, because that the characters that I created, I like love them, but I need to figure out like what to do with them aside from having them help her. And so that's why I'm talking about like motivations and stuff and inspirations and everything, trying to figure out how I want these characters to come to life. And it's definitely, I have like character building sheets that I'm following and, things of that nature. And it's very, what's the word? It's a challenge because, I try to use a lot of my normal life as inspiration for some of my characters, but I mean, some of my normal life doesn't obviously fit in fantasy elements, so I have to convert them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was the one thing easy. I always have an easy time writing villains, but persona. Yeah, I think like 90% of what I'm writing is based on my own characteristics, and then some of the other background people I write are based on other people I just happen to know.
Yeah.
Like the chief of police that I will introduce later is modeled off of someone who may or may not co-host with me. So that'll be fun. I'll have to let him know. Be like, hey, you inspired a character.
And then you could be like, can you guess which character is you? That sounds like a good time, actually.
Sure. Good morning to you as well. Good to see you here. Thank you, everybody who's watching. We got 10 people watching. So glad you can join us. We're here talking about some things to do when writing and stuff like that. We're reading some of our stuff. I read my introduction to my story earlier, and that was my prologue because I'm super narcissistic. I needed a prologue and an introduction, so I might read my introduction later on.
It is 8:45, so that's why my camera's off. I'm getting dressed and packing up my hotel room. So.
Oh, morning, Billie Jean. How are you? Good to see you.
Billie Jean is not my lover.
Just like you. She said I'm the one. Oh man. But yeah. So for me, character development is going to be slightly harder because I've got to develop my character whilst my character is talking, and it could be obnoxious if a character is describing themselves. So I'm still working on how I'm going to get people to know what my character looks like.
You said difficult to see how they look like?
Yeah, because most books get to be descriptive, describing the person. However, this is all narrated through my characters. So it'd be weird to have a character describing themselves to you.
Could you have a character describe somebody else?
See, that would work, except for it's solely narrated through my protagonist and antagonist. So
Sounds like you got some work to do.
yeah. But I'm hoping that instead of going the route of world building, I will mention a world, but the world is supposed to be more of a backdrop. My story is mostly focused on the individuals in the world and what's going on, as opposed to building a sprawling world, different from what you're doing, because your books probably rely heavily on building a whole world and different mechanics and things like that, which is pretty cool. That sounds like a very arduous task.
Oh, it's definitely difficult, especially because so I love it. Don't get me wrong. World and character building are my favorite things. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm on the other side of the room. So I love building worlds. I love building characters, and so that's why whenever I create a fantasy story, I have to create a map so that I can see where I'm at. And it makes my life so much easier because, for instance, the map of Zalari, I have, a land that's mostly wild and magical. I have a land that's mostly gardens, and then I have mountains and stuff. And so it gets really in depth, and I can't get that in depth if I don't have a map. So that's kind of what I do when I'm building. And sometimes though, the thing about world building though is you have to think about cultures and governments and what their society makeup is, and it gets really convoluted. Sometimes I drown myself in description, and so I have to scale it back a little.
See, I envy that. I've always gone for a more simplistic. See, I found it more interesting the people that populate the world. depending on what I read, but I'm more into the people that populate the world as opposed to the world itself.
Right.
So it's still tough because that means then people have to be invested in the person who is, doing the talking or whatever else. So then it becomes about making the character a world when it itself,
Yeah.
they can't be flat or one dimensional. They have to have some personality for the reader to be able to connect to. Otherwise, you don't really have nothing that people can get invested in. So,
Right.
which is interesting because we're essentially two different styles, but
Yeah.
it really comes down, when you think about it, to the same fundamentals, which is that development, whether it's a character development or world development, or in your case, probably a bit of both.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, especially because I have the other thing I've built too is like different like races of people inhibit different areas. So like I have a traveling so I have also a bunch of different like types of elves. So I've got like light elves, which is what Luna is, and then I've got like shadow elves, which is what Lycus is, and then I've got dragons. So like Aesol that we were just talking about, she's a dragon. She shape shifts from human form to dragon form, and she's like the sister of the king of dragons, and this, that, and the other, which is why she's got her own mansion and stuff. And then I have dwarves, and then I have I have wood elves that like travel, and they're kind of like, if anybody's played Dragon Age, they're kind of like the Dalish, and they just kind of travel around and stuff like that. So it gets really complex. It's fun and I love it, but it gets really complex, and sometimes I have to like okay, stop building people and start writing your story.
Lily Potter, great suggestion. Thank you. Says, "Oh, Mr. Zod, if it's horror, you could do it. Throw one of the victims for like a paragraph. It could be from their perspective."
That is a
Thank
good
you.
point.
Yes, because yes, the person being chased is a serial killer, of course, that my protagonist is chasing. So yeah, that could be a good one. And it's funny because this character is actually another character from another story that I also have been working on for a while. But because of the fact that it's so similar to so many other stories, I kind of had to tweak it a little bit. But yeah, the idea for the villain character came from another character I built in another story.
Which is always fun. I love when characters cross over. Like especially like you see that a lot in like romance novels. So when I'm not writing my fantasy as Jay McCarthy, I'm writing contemporary romance as J. Marie Fire. And you see that a lot in romance genres where they're like, this waitress is in this book, or, this high socialite is in that book, and they just kind of cross over and you're like, oh my God, I remember that person. I love that person. I read their book. And, that's what I aim for on my contemporary romance pen name is like, I like having repeat characters just because as an author, I don't know if you feel this way, Mr. Villain Zod here, but as an author, when you create characters, they're like your book kids. They're like your children. And so like when I write stories, I'm like, oh my God, I love these characters. I would love to see them again. And then like sometimes in stories where I like kill the character, I'm like, oh my God, how can I bring them back?
Yeah, I think if you guys didn't hear the last discussion, I approach a story with, okay, how can I kill the whole cast and make it work? Which is kind of it's a weird perspective. And I've always wondered, before Stephen King became a douchebag, or John Saul or any of these, Clive Barker, I've always wondered, when they're writing horror, do they approach it like that? Like, oh, okay, so I got this creature. Now, how is it going to slay this whole cast of people? Like, that's how I've always approached it. But not just in the sense of, oh, I want to get rid of everyone, but more of a sense of, will they overcome this malevolent force? I've also liked stuff by like H.P. Lovecraft and things like that, where you have this overwhelming force, and the intriguing part to me is the getting so close, but because of the scope of what they're dealing with, it's just not feasibly possible to stop it. It's something beyond human comprehension, kind of a thing. Or even when you're dealing with more earthly kind of things, it's a certain part of the human condition that it exists, but when you're faced with it, how could they overcome it? Right. And so I've always been intrigued by this, but this story I'm writing is more of a there is going to be a little bit of also mental health kind of stuff in it, because of what I went through in my personal life. I also threw that into this story, and also to a lot to do with the military. So there's a bit of spoilers there, because I'm also going to throw that in as well.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a scenario of, okay, what happens? What's the psychological effects, and then how does that play in the overarching story? And the best part is at the end of this, I'm actually going to introduce my protagonist from the second book at the end of this one. So they're not even going to start in their book. They're going to start in this first book.
Huh. That's cool.
Yeah. I like writing a lot of like stuff that's like, because like in real life you could have like happenstance and chance, and I like that, like, oh, they were here during this, they were like, they weren't exactly working on this, but they happened to cross paths with the person or whatever they'll be chasing later on, and they just don't realize it, like just walking through a park or something like that, because stuff like that happens. And I got a lot of that idea from I watched this movie on Ted Bundy, and it was intriguing because a lot of people crossed his path, cops ran into him, things like that, and no one ever realized that that was the person they were looking for the whole entire time, that they just crossed paths with. And I find that idea intriguing,
I don't know. I follow a lot of true crime stories, and some of them I'm just like, man, this was so scary.
Yeah, that's the thing that interests me, and kind of the model for this character going forward. And I do know that this villain that I'm creating is going to be the overarching idea of what the whole series is about, is going to be interconnected detective stories all on this one thing that they're chasing, or this one individual, all linked to catching this one individual. I'm not going to tell you if they're going to succeed or not, but it will be interesting.
Knowing you, they probably won't.
Billy G says, I agree with that idea, Zad. Thank you. Geekassaddle Tendency says, I feel like authors' personal experience in their writing is more importantly their characters. Yeah. Yeah, I like to do. I'm big into horror and intrigue. I wrote this one short story, and I might do it again for. Oh, geez, no, I don't want Norton Antivirus. God. I did another Halloween short story, and it was told from the perspective of a killer stalking their victim. but the way I framed it, it was almost like a hunter hunting until you find out it's an urban setting.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I like doing those kinds of ideas. I like doing like character perspectives and things like that because I think it gives people a good insight. I mean, I find it interesting because then people are like, oh, I was following thinking one thing, but it was actually this.
Right.
And I think it gives a good view into the perspective of whatever you're reading or the character or whatever. So,
All right. Well, it is 8:59. So as much as I would love to keep going, I do got to do that work thing.
oh yeah, that's right. Yes. Uh, True crime is gold on YouTube right now. I've seen TC Chan's go from 50 subs to 2,000 in a month. Yeah, true crime is a huge thing. So, yeah, I guess we're going to start wrapping this up. We only do this for about an hour. Like the show that will be on later, where me and the late night crew get together and do all sorts of wacky entertainment shenanigans for late night talks. We should have Mad Squirrel, Pop Culture PB, myself, Cybernetic Husky, and whoever the hell else decides to come out. Could be Justin, could be the Glare. I don't know. Time to time, I get some mysterious people here and there. But anyways, yeah. Anything you would like to plug before we get out of here?
Like I said before, my story Acts of Divinity is on Amazon for 99 cents. Let me drop my author link before I forget.
Yeah, and I think I put the links in the description because Squirrel does that stuff. So God bless you, Squirrel. Just got your Facebook, your
Nice.
short bio, recent book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, my Twitch channel, my Twitter, and my Teespring. Gosh.
But yeah, if you are looking for more details on my story, feel free to jump over to my YouTube channel. I don't know if you have that up there or not, Zad, but you guys can jump over there. I do a lot of like life advice. I do some like resiliency training. I have an authentic rant that's Zad worthy on there. And yeah, so I don't really have a lot of content on there yet. I only have like 76 subscribers, but feel free to jump over and see if there's anything interesting. And like always, I am not a writing specialist. I forgot to do this disclaimer in the beginning, but I'm not a writing specialist. I am not a writing coach. However, I can only tell you what my own experiences are. And if it works for you, it works for you. So I don't want people to be like, you're a terrible writing coach, because that's not what this channel or this show is about. So yeah, like always, go outside, get some fresh air, find inspiration, and just live your life knowing that you're not alone, and eliminate toxicity, embrace positivity, and let the world guide you. Don't guide the world. So that's basically all I have to say.
Oh, all right. Well, I've got nothing better to say than that. So do all of those things, and then after you're done doing that, come and see my show tonight, where we will take any toxic feelings you have and project them in funny jokes and laughter. So yeah, come on by, check us out. Everybody have a good evening. KK, I'm sorry you missed the show, but you can go back, rewind the beginning. And next Tongue in Cheek will be on Jay McCarthy's channel. So check that out on Monday at some time. We'll work that out. In the meantime, remember, there is only one rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before General Zod.